Ladies and gentlemen, believers, hivelings, and everyone in between, my name is the Outlier Isaac, and welcome to episode 2 of my new podcast called A Bothered Man. Um, like I said, for those unfamiliar with what we do here, pretty much I would come on here, and eventually I'm going to have guests come on here, and we're just going to talk about what bothers us and how we can find solutions to things that bother us. So this week, what bothers me today, and it what bothers me today is something that's kind of been bothering me for a while. Is the idea that we use words that we're not sure what they mean, or we hear people use words that we know the definition of, and we know they're not using it in the right way. And there are two words in particular I want to lock in on. Um, And if you're watching this, please put other words that you see. Please feel free to comment other words that you've heard people use, but you know they're not using it properly. So there are two words in particular I want to focus on. The and first one is the word woke. Now, personally, I've grown to hate this word because I know what it means. But what the thing is, we're going to do, and here's the thing what we're going to do with these words. What we're going to do is we're going to give the textbook definition of the word, like the dictionary definition of the word, and then we're going to give all of a sudden what the current meaning has become, and we're going to look into history and all that. So the Google, this is on Google. Google says the definition of the word is it's a verb. It's the past form of is the well, the current definition it has is according to Oxford Language. It says alert to and concern alert to and concerned about social injustice and discrimination. That's more of the current the current, and honestly, that's honestly the real definition of it, if I'm being completely honest. Again, it is alert to and concerned about social injustice and discrimination. That's the one definition. Another definition and is the present wake, which is to emerge or cause to emerge from a state of sleep, stop sleeping, become alert to or aware of. So the like I said, those are the tech. I just gave you the textbook definition of those, right? Like I said, I'm gonna read it again. Alert to and concerned about social injustice or discrimination. Makes sense. Emerge or cause to emerge from a state of sleep, to stop sleeping. Be alert to or aware of. For those who don't know, this word first became appearing in the vernacular of African Americans in the in the in the 80 in the it's a part of AAVE. It became a in the 1930s. It became, according to this, it says it became a word to used by African Americans in the 30s to make people aware of racial prejudice and racial discrimination. Basically, means, like I said, to make you aware. And again, when you put it that way, and considering the history of this country and Black Americans in this country, it makes sense. You want people to be awake to that. You want people to be aware of, to be alert to that kind of discrimination and prejudice that's going on, especially for that time and even now. What it has become, it has basically become the almost a dog whistle, if you will, to say anything that is considered progressive. But to hear it just tagged onto any other word, like the woke agenda or whatever the case may be, or woke librarian or woke teachers, to hear it attached to that is really undercutting the purpose of it. Meaning, if you use it like that, you really don't want to see, you're not really a fan of the change that we're trying to implement, which again is good change for everybody. Unless you, again, don't want to be a fan of that change. So that's the first word. Second word is satire. Now, here is what satire means: the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and topical issues. It is a play or film, novel, film, or other work which uses satire. So I heard something this week in the wake of the tragedy of a couple weeks ago. I don't want to bring it up because I don't want to lose this channel, even though it's not big. Anyway, that's not the point. Um, in the wake of that, I heard this guy was on a pod. I can't remember it, but a guy was on was called into a pod and the host was giving direct quotes of Charlie Kirk. He was given direct quotes that he said, and he was asked, how he felt about, and the caller was asked how he felt about him. And when he said some of the stuff, like the guy said, "Oh, that's satire. Oh, it's just satire." He meant it in satire. I have watched a lot of, maybe too many. I've seen a lot of clips of Charlie Kirk. Never once, from anything I saw, did I think he was being satirical or comedic in his rhetoric. Not once. Which brought me to another thing. I found it interesting that a lot of people want to say, "Oh, these are just jokes. They're just jokes." Like when people get offended about certain things, they say, "Oh, it's just jokes. It's just satire." I said, no, guys, look. If you want to give true satire or show humor, how about just be actually funny? Because to me, satire, like when it comes to satire in the political realm, people want to like cover their almost their ideology in it and use use crazy rhetoric to spew ideology, and then with that ideology to say, it's all, and then when it gets heated, even though they 100% mean it, they would say to avoid punishment, they want to say it's satire. So no, if you said it, you meant it, and that's cool. You should be able to say if you say it, you should be able to say what you mean and deal with it. As simple as that. But he said it was satire, and then it made me think, I don't think anybody on that side is capable of satire, because if they were capable of understanding satire, then what, I don't know, for those of you who've been following, what Gavin Newsom has been doing, what Twitter has been doing, is pretty much mirroring what the current administration is doing in terms of rhetoric, in terms of just on Twitter, just like in terms of like rhetoric, like tweeting in all caps, just all sorts of whatever act, just mirroring just everything on Twitter. And to me, I'm like, well, that's kind of genius. But the problem with it, it's not the problem that the administration is having, is that they're saying it's unprofessional. But the thing about it is, it's not unprofessional. It's almost like the hypocrisy of it. It's like, it's unprofessional when he does it, but it's not unprofessional when you are who are in the power seat when you do it. But I guess that's just the power dynamic. I guess that's just the power dynamic. Anyway, like I said, these aren't going to go long. These aren't going to go long. For those who are just joining us, if you're here, like I said, these aren't intended to go long. These just to say, hey, this is what I have, and this is what bothers me. These solutions. Now, solutions to this would be to both of these to say, hey, if you're using words, know what they mean. That's about the only solution I can think of. If you use a word, at least know what it means. Now, granted, do I have trouble with that sometimes? Yeah, I'll say something like, did I use that properly? I don't think I did. And then try and think of another word. But if you're just using just words just to cover whatever you're saying, and that's exact, and for a fact that's not what it is, just because of, you're just trying to cover your tracks or whatever, just don't bother. That's not to say it, but it's just like, at least stand by it. It's as simple as that. Don't try and say something offensive and cloud it in satire. Just stand by what you said it. If you wanted to say, like, if you want for satire, like, if you want to say something funny, say something funny. If you want to be ironic, be ironic. Just be satirical. Because I always associate satire with humor. And me, I have a wide sense of humor. I don't get offended easily. I really don't. But I also know, like, just because it's crowds and stuff and satire and comedy doesn't mean it's funny. You all found some comedians who aren't funny. That happens. We've all been around unfunny people. That happens. Just treat it like that. Just treat it like, if it's not your brand of comedy, if it's not your brand of satire, treat it like it's an unfunny comedian. Simple as that. But let's try not to use words. Or if we're going to use words like this, let's at least use them for the right reason. It's simple as that. Simple as that. Anyway, thank you all for joining. We may be back here Wednesday because we may have a special guest, and I will keep y'all in tune with that, or might just spawn in on you when it happens, but we'll see. Anyway, till then, I'm the Outlier. Y'all be blessed.